This guy was struck by an arrow. He staggered until he fell to the ground, wondering what it meant. A man appeared, pointing his sword at him. He simply said, "Check it." A group of hooded figures shouted that they had found a relic. And just like that, the protagonist had all his items stolen. Now the time has come for his journey to end. He met his end the same way it happened in the game. After being defeated, he asked the Mother of Corruption not to be upset. One of those artifacts is a mystical hand, which moves toward its servant's body while emitting a warning sound, even without a mouth. The boy said that it was necessary. Finally, the hand managed to touch him, and the body stood up once more. Our boy thinks the hand is worried about the divinity of the stolen relic. His body lifts him up as he states that he has already collected it, so it makes no sense to be chased for all this time. The damage our protagonist suffered is being completely restored. Despite everything that happened, he ended up losing some of the money he was carrying, and the mystical hand won't stop repeating the same word. In the past, our boy was just an ordinary young man who lived a busy life and played games. And he liked to use an editing program. Based on a game whose name he doesn't even remember anymore, he still kept having fun. He loved to play as the Priest of Corruption. This is a rather curious description, as it's hard to imagine what the Priest of Corruption does. It's difficult to progress and even to play, one of the most challenging classes in the game, but our protagonist felt very enthusiastic every time he played this way. One time, he managed to complete all the tasks, and that seems to have caused a bizarre reaction in front of his computer. After being pulled through a portal, he ended up becoming the Priest of Corruption himself. Now he carries with him that mystical hand that repeats only the same word. It seems that only our boy hears this voice, as if it were the lead singer of a heavy metal band, the Mother of Corruption. His journey with her began 5 years ago when he first served her. Upon waking up in the game, our protagonist had only two things: a robe from the Order of Corruption and the hand of the Mother of Corruption herself, resting on his chest. He also felt an intense presence, as if he were connected to that hand, which eased his acceptance process, since he was now inside the game's world. According to the description of this universe, the Priest of Corruption is being modified by mystical means and ancient rituals. As a result, our boy has an enhanced physique, as well as heightened senses. That's why his body can only be defeated by deities. That sword didn't even leave a scratch. Our boy also suspects there might be something different about his brain. He was never able to withstand conflict scenes so well, but after becoming a Priest of Corruption, intense situations became commonplace, and he's not even affected by them. A terrible side effect he feels now is that his body is unable to feel absolutely anything, not even the taste of things. Back in the city, our protagonist is receiving his identification. He would also like to receive another job, as it's good to keep busy. The secretary said she would look through her papers. There might be something suitable for him. Meanwhile, our boy waits patiently. Since arriving in that city, our protagonist has been striving to become a member of the Order of Preservation. If he were in another order, he could provoke the wrath of the goddess he now serves, and he would be marked in a way that only other members could see. A seal of punishment, but it seems the Mother of Corruption is being benevolent with him, since the Order of Corruption is an enemy to all, and our boy, who wasn't accepted by everyone either, ended up becoming the sole follower of the Mother of all corruption in the world. After this brief explanation, the secretary finally managed to find something suitable. As soon as he received his task, our protagonist thanked the girl for her work. Generally, mercenaries asked the secretary to read what is written on this paper, but our boy was given the ability to understand the language of this world. And before carrying out his mission, he has a question for the girl. He would like to receive a portion of the reward up front, which surprised the girl, as there's no way that's happening. Now that he has his task, he has departed with the caravan. It seems that after insisting a bit, he managed to get the money, but the secretary made it very clear that this was an exception. This ended up making the goddess jealous, and our protagonist made a point of saying that he isn't interested in anyone. While talking with the deity, the young man was interrupted by someone. A baby-faced young man is trying to be friendly and would like to know our protagonist's hometown. This guy's name is Pierre. If they continue on this route, they will pass through the town where he was born, and he hopes his parents are doing well. He also shared that creatures often appear to people on this road, but all our protagonist wanted was to travel in silence. Fortunately, someone ended up calling for the young man, and now he's going to the front of the caravan, promising he'll be back soon. The goddess told our protagonist to confront everyone, but he doesn't want to do that, as it would make his trip much more troublesome. Dialoguing with the Mother of Corruption, our protagonist made it clear that he needs money and would like to be able to keep warm this winter. This justification seems to have been reasonable for her. Now our boy can walk in peace. However, he realized he was too sharp in his argument, stating that he wouldn't do it again. The goddess's hand opened inside his coat, and our boy wants to know with how many fingers she rates these people. A mark began to appear on the other travelers. For our protagonist, this is a sign that there's no one special among them. When he defeats an opponent, he receives a blessing from his deity proportional to the number of fingers. When he gets 10,000 points, he can gain an authority, and thanks to the system, he managed to absorb the divinity of a sacred relic. That chalice from the beginning of the story, and through it, our boy gained his first authority. In total, there are 12 relics. The mother of corruption informed him that if he manages to get them all of our boy's wishes will be granted. And the first thing he wants to obtain is the ability to taste things again. That's when he heard someone say that the captain had asked not to be disturbed. It's the young man who appeared to say this, as he recognized he was bothering our introverted boy. Although that was a great relief for our boy, he was polite, saying that it was all right, recommending that he not worry about him. But in the next second, several arrows were fired, hitting some of the travelers. Our protagonist acted quickly to protect Pierre, pushing him to the ground so he wouldn't be hit by the arrows. Some of them were traveling in our boy's direction. He ended up being hit squarely. After witnessing this scene, Pierre became very worried. A short distance from the caravan, the archers revealed their presence, and our boy is on the ground looking exhausted. He is sure this attack must have been carried out by bandits. The mother of corruption suggested that he pretend to be defeated to surprise the unsuspecting attackers when he gets a chance. That would definitely be the easiest thing to do right now. But our protagonist doesn't agree with that. After getting up, he looked at the sword closest to his hands, showing that he has his own priorities too. Ready to start the fight, our boy is prepared to use his resilience to be immune to the strength of others. The archer responsible for hitting him was very confused. This boy wasn't supposed to be able to walk, and now he'll never find out the truth because, unlike our protagonist, that opponent was permanently defeated. Others who were hiding in the forest watched this, and the adversary's leader is now very angry. He told his lackeys that he will fight the priests, while the others take care of the caravan. Our protagonist's eyes are already focused on the next victim. The battle between him and the adversary's leader has begun. The blows they exchange are very powerful. Now both have been pushed back by the impact of their swords. Curious about this strength, our protagonist asked the mother of corruption to evaluate his opponent. This made the opponent realize he's talking to himself, taking the opportunity to attack. But his attempt to end the fight was thwarted. For someone with a fragile appearance, our boy knows how to use a sword quite well. He also discovers that this man was evaluated with 2.5 fingers. It's truly impressive that some random bandit is rated at the same level as the ranger who defeated our boy. With a smile on his face, he realized that this game is completely unbalanced. Now he needs to focus all his attention on this fight. After a powerful blow, our boy's sword was shattered. The bandit fighting him was pleased to see it. That's why he uses frost steel to fight, which is much tougher than ordinary steel. Seeing that he couldn't defend himself, the bandit dismissed our protagonist as nothing special, promising to leave him alone. He revealed this was their last job in the area. They were leaving anyway. He suggested they stop fighting and forget everything that happened. But our protagonist had other plans. He suggested the bandit change his ways and leave this place immediately. If he promised to do so, our protagonist assured him he'd go easy on him. But those words only offended his opponent. He wouldn't agree to something like that. Before he had a chance to respond, our boy was hit by an arrow. It was all part of the bandit's strategy, trying to distract our boy. His allies barely helped, having seen him destroy the priest's sword. During the bandits' conversation, it was revealed that no one from the caravan survived. Our protagonist asked if that was what they had really done, and the sound of his voice struck fear into everyone. Now our boy rose from the snow. He asked what made them so surprised. Indeed, someone had survived being shot in the head with an arrow, but our boy is so used to it that he realized this was a first for the bandits. Now, those who once seemed intimidating were completely terrified. Clasping his hands together, our protagonist said he had already given them all a chance. The response came as an arrow, and a great energy began to envelop the boy's body. Watching this up close, the bandit was completely shocked. He then ordered his allies to fire at the target. Several arrows began to strike our boy's body. He was praying to the mother of corruption, saying he was in danger and asking what to do. After all those shots, the bandits grew even more terrified, certain they were facing a monster. While our protagonist asked the mother of corruption for help, the bandits came to the obvious conclusion that it would be much better to flee now, only to find they were surrounded by a magical barrier, unable to escape. Our protagonist knows this is the line that the living cannot cross. An authority the priest of corruption must activate before unleashing his full power, preventing his enemies from escaping. In fact, our protagonist quite likes this kind of authority. Faced with danger, the bandits had no choice but to use their swords again. Before the first of them could even attack the barrier, one was overwhelmingly defeated. The scene was so alarming it deeply shook the survivors. An imposing four-armed creature was walking in the snow, and it was this creature that defeated the bandit with its bare hands. The faceless creature was now ready to continue its duties, causing the surviving bandits to become instantly terrified. The monster roared furiously inside that dome of perdition. It walked slowly towards its next victims, who, by this point, were too disturbed to react. They were all begging the priest to have mercy on their lives, but their screams weren't enough to change his mind. After that whole confrontation, life returned to normal. Our protagonist returned to the caravan's location. He asked if the mother of corruption wanted him to collect those divinities. When he does this, the traces disappear, which could lead to an investigation, so he'll need to think of an excuse. That's when our boy noticed something. The opponent, who wouldn't stop talking, seemed to be injured. but it didn't look fatal. Our protagonist will do whatever it takes to save this person's life, as it will be very useful for building his reputation. And now he needs the Mother of Corruption's help once again, asking her to stop the progression of the man's wounds. Elsewhere, far away, someone was using the chalice our protagonist had recovered. The woman holding it wanted to know what happened to the person responsible for the theft. She was informed that the culprit had been neutralized. Since the place was abandoned and in the middle of nowhere, they had to leave the adversary behind. By all indications, this woman is also a priestess. Observing the chalice closely, she said the young man could return now because she was thinking of starting her journey to pilgrimage. Her assistant, hearing these words, was surprised as it was too sudden. This led him to ask if she was doing it because of the prophecy. And indeed, that is exactly what motivates this woman now. Besides, there is someone she needs to find. Back in the snow, our boy is carrying the talkative survivor. 10 years ago, all religious orders received the same prophecy. Our boy is now arriving at a fortress, and the end will consume the husk of life, bringing perdition to the entire world. Our boy left the man in the care of the guards. They didn't know how our boy managed to carry someone so heavy alone. A girl appeared, saying she already had permission from the guards. She revealed she never would have guessed it from his appearance, but it seems he's really stronger than he looks, and he's holding something too. Our boy is carrying a bag with proof that he completed his task. It would be much better to hand this over to the guild, so our protagonist gives the package to her. As he walks through the city, our boy mentions he needs a place to sleep. If it's okay with him, the girl has a suggestion, and before she could reveal it, the Mother of Corruption got upset, because the girl suggested he sleep at her house, making the Mother of Corruption jealous. After that invitation, our boy slept soundly in a warm bed. Since he was looking for comfort, he accepted the invitation, explaining to the Mother of Corruption that he had no bad intentions towards the girl. The truth is, he slept in the guest room at the mercenary hall. After waking up that morning, our boy heard the door open slowly. It was the same girl who appeared to wish him a good morning. She said she'd like him to rest as much as possible, but there's something he must do urgently. Immediately, our boy started to get up, saying there was no problem. He wanted to know what was so urgent, and the girl informed him that the Lord wished to see him, all while the Mother of Corruption's presence showed her disapproval. Our boy found the invitation strange. He wanted to know the reason for such a meeting. He was informed that the caravan's captain was Captain Galad, who was the half-brother of the city's lord. Finally, our protagonist was brought before this man. The butler who led him there was told to leave the hall. Lord Tredden observed our protagonist closely. He asked if the boy had witnessed his brother's final moments. As soon as he offered him some tea, our boy began to smile mysteriously. The moment the Mother of Corruption saw the man, she drew a large X on his body. And our boy, instead of accepting the tea, asked how such a creature could live hidden among humans. Because he is, in fact, a demon. There's only one reason the Mother of Corruption marks people like that. It's when they encounter a being that isn't alive. And that kind of creature, only one can maintain a human form. Demons. And there's one in this room right now. Even though they are stronger than most other creatures, demons can't do things on their own. Other creatures have the same limitation, which is why they need to make pacts with the creatures of this world. That's why demons love all living creatures, but the gods hate demons because they give as much as they take. The followers of the gods were instructed to call these creatures demons, attributing evil behavior to them. That's when the Great Hunt began. Thinking about it, the demon contractor class was very difficult, and most players avoided it at all costs. Our protagonist had played it before. It was the second class he decided to try. After that sentence, the city's lord fell silent. He was surprised by this priest. Thanks to the events with Galad, he was able to meet with this very important guest. Because he was able to see through his human disguise, he believes our protagonist does not serve the goddess of preservation. And he said he could be called Creeping Weight. Our boy said he is a priest who serves the Lady of Corruption, and he can be called Marnak. For simplicity, we'll refer to him as Marcos. The Lord thought people like him were extinct and found it interesting to meet a servant of corruption. He also asked our boy to sit, as they were the only ones in the room. Now the Lord was going to be extremely honest with him. There was no particular reason he wanted to meet the boy. In truth, he wants to know about the final moments of the captain from the caravan, ensuring he would pay for all the effort our protagonist had put in. As soon as he heard about money, our boy smiled, telling the man everything he wanted to hear. Once outside the mansion, our boy acknowledged that the meeting had been interesting. He found out that the captain had received a job from the Lord, but ended up dying in the process. Looking out the window, the Lord said that life has its complications, because it's truly very difficult. Despite the outbursts, our boy got his long-awaited gold coins. He understood it wasn't a bribe. The man genuinely wanted to know the truth. After being scolded by the Lady of Corruption, our boy said he wasn't greedy, but that money is a necessity. He hoped the goddess would hear him out before she got any angrier. He cleared his throat to begin his speech. "Is there anything that doesn't tarnish and lasts as long as gold?" he asked, wondering if she knew what it was. Since she didn't know, he would give her the answer now. It was the affection he felt for her, which left the goddess quite flustered. Apparently, our protagonist's tactic was super effective, and that was enough for the goddess to be at peace again. To our young man, she would always be the most important thing in his life. He revealed that she no longer needed to worry about anything, especially not about things that might make her jealous. But the moment she saw that girl again, the goddess became irritated. The secretary suggested our young man should meet the priests from other sects. Those over there were from the sect of teaching, but our boy wanted to avoid that group for now. However, he might not be able to do that, because as he looked at these men, he felt something strange. He was immediately informed by the Lady of Corruption. A man within that group was in possession of a sacred relic. One of the men decided to approach our boy. He hadn't expected to find a priest of preservation in that place, one who dedicates his life to doing what is right. Introducing himself as Orvis, the scale of retribution. This man's face was marked by scars. The bovine-like being behind him was named Toran, while the girl accompanying them was named Patina. After this introduction, our boy was friendly as well. He said it was very nice to meet them all and revealed that he served the goddess of preservation. The secretary found it very curious that there were so many other priests there too. For our protagonist, this was a great relief, as it might not happen right now, but he would have plenty of opportunities to obtain that relic. The only problem was that when he absorbed their divinity, a bit of corruption energy tended to escape. Now, perhaps he would have to obtain it again. Those men said they needed to meet with the Lord now. They promised they could have a good talk with our protagonist soon. As they walked away, our protagonist wondered why they were going to speak with that man. The secretary said that the guild usually hosts priests for a very small fee. Visibly annoyed, our boy wanted to know if he'd have to pay for the previous day, but the girl said no. She asked if he thought she had some kind of personal interest in him, revealing she only helped because he was a priest. That ended up disappointing our boy. However, the secretary said she did have some personal intentions in helping him. If possible, to prevent the food there from spoiling, she asked our boy to use a blessing to preserve it. Since she got too close to our protagonist, he became uncomfortable with her proximity, and the receptionist seemed to have noticed his reaction. As she admired our boy, the Lady of Corruption became extremely enraged. That's when someone else appeared, saying the two of them seemed to get along very well. Our protagonist wanted to know why that man hadn't followed his companions. It was the bovine-like companion who had stayed behind at the tavern. The man said he had no other choice. Due to his ethnicity, he tended to make a bad impression and preferred to be more discreet. But the girl there said the Lord probably wouldn't have a negative impression of him. He might be very distant when dealing with people, but he behaves in an extremely professional manner, completely separating his personal life matters, which is why he has many supporters, suggesting the man shouldn't speak ill of him. After being warned, he promised he would keep that in mind. Now, if he wanted to learn more about the history of this city, he was extremely impressed by the words the girl spoke, which were definitely not few. The minutes passed, and the three of them were now chatting quite naturally, which prompted our protagonist to ask a question. He wanted to know why those men decided to visit the Lord. Faced with this, their companion was about to give the real answer. They were just following a prophecy they received 10 years ago. They believe that the end of all life will be caused by an evil entity. Very frightened, our protagonist asked if they thought the Lord was this entity, but the man said no. In fact, Orvis had just gone to check in person, as he has an ability that allows him to assess if someone has a malignant nature. Apparently, what allows this to happen is a relic, and in the Lord's presence, it began to glow uncontrollably, revealing the true appearance of the man who was in that room. While they were talking, a huge explosion occurred in the city. A creature resembling a large crocodile was furious. Our protagonist looked fearfully in the direction of the sound, wondering what could have happened. The priest immediately grabbed his hammer as he was ready for battle. He managed to land a powerful blow on the creature that appeared in the middle of the city. The impact was strong, aimed at neutralizing the threat. That was the hammer of punishment that Orvis carried. Far away, the bovine-featured priest knew his companions were fighting and needed help immediately. Our protagonist asked him to go on ahead, saying he would follow shortly. His priority was to speak with the secretary. Revealing she was quite frightened, she asked our protagonist what was happening in the city, but without answering her, he asked about Pierre. He needed to know which medical center Pierre was being treated at, as he had to meet him immediately. Having no other choice, he picked the girl up in his arms. Now both of them were heading towards the other man. Our protagonist did this using his impressive physical abilities. As they ran through the city, they heard several cries for help, because a giant and very dangerous crocodile had appeared. The secretary had something to say to our protagonist, seeing with her own eyes that the creature was in the middle of the city causing great destruction, but he ignored it completely, as he needed to find the injured man as soon as possible, which made the girl point in the right direction. Very worried, our protagonist entered the house. He found the man still unconscious from his injuries, but given the destruction in the city, they were relieved he was still alive. Our protagonist wouldn't let him lose his life in this situation, not after all the work he put into saving him. Now our boy picked the man up in his arms. He also asked the secretary to hold on to him tightly, as he wouldn't be able to use his hands to carry her this time. Surprising everyone, the secretary held on tightly to our boy. He stomped on the ground hard once more. using his strength to flee from there immediately. Now the secretary seemed to be on alert. She told our protagonist that she knew of a secret passage in this place. As soon as he heard this information, our protagonist asked her to share it, and the secretary pointed the way he should go. She informed him that the house ahead had a passage leading out of the city, but the door was locked. Faced with this, our boy had to use force to get through, leaving the secretary completely impressed with that display of strength and power. Our boy was now inside this mysterious house, and looking back, the secretary couldn't even believe what had happened. Truly, this priest was stronger than he looked. Putting the girl down, our young man said she should escape through the secret passage if things got much worse. Very worried, she decided to ask what our boy was going to do now. He said he needed to return to the center of the battle. Even though the secretary was worried, he completely ignored her, leaving the two of them behind to return to the fight. Upon arriving at the city center, our boy came across something unusual. It was his bovine-like companion. He'd already been defeated and was lying on the ground, visibly exhausted. With barely enough strength to open his eyes, he managed to recognize our protagonist. Analyzing the horn being up close, he realized his injuries were too severe. There was nothing he could do to help the individual. He would have to leave him there, but the protagonist wanted to know where the others who accompanied him were. The news to share was not good. The woman, who had no lines in the story, was no longer among them. The protagonist asked if there was a way to defeat the dangerous demon. The horn being replied that they had another relic, the white sword. His companion had managed to plunge it into the demon. If the protagonist could use the sword on the creature's weak spot, the demon would surely be defeated. After saying this, the horn being met his end. There was no more life in his body. The protagonist seized the opportunity to collect the divinity from the being before him, earning points in the process. Meanwhile, where the demon was, the remaining priest did his best to defeat it, using his hammer to press the sword deeper into the demon. The blows were intense, and the creature was clearly bothered by the situation. This was the chance the protagonist needed. He managed to strike the creature with one of his swords, giving him the perfect opportunity to act, since all he had to do was reach the white sword. But he soon realized his task wouldn't be easy. The creature was very agitated. The protagonist couldn't believe what was about to happen. The enormous crocodile began to spin its entire body in a rapid motion. Because of this, he was thrown far away, leaving the mother of corruption very apprehensive. The boy now needed some time to recover, but he told the mother of corruption that everything was fine. After all, his goddess had told him that some blessings come with great challenges, and this made the protagonist very excited because next to him was the relic he longed to possess. Finally getting his hands on the sacred artifact, he immediately offered its power to his goddess to receive a new authority. The power of corruption began to manifest, flowing directly into the artifact. The protagonist realized that each relic held the power for a new authority. After absorbing them, his points increased significantly. He had just lifted another seal. Faced with this, he asked the mother of corruption what made this one different from the others. The hand near him moved immediately to show him something. He thanked it for the support, but considered breaking the seal of a sacred relic a small feat. Although this agitated the mother of corruption, he liked that it could move that way. Since the situation was a bit urgent, he decided to stop joking around and immediately began his prayer, offering all the points he had received to her, so he could receive a new authority. The boy eagerly awaited the power, receiving the text of corruption as his reward. The effects of this authority were simple, yet extremely powerful. From the moment the authority was activated, words appeared on his body like tattoos, amplifying all his physical abilities. To the protagonist, this wasn't about authority at all and would be very useful in the situation they needed to overcome. Getting to his feet, he noticed his legs had recovered from the damage of the crocodile's attack, which made him look around. There was a sword nearby. On the ground lay the priest with marks on his face, who was likely no longer alive. Now the boy understood what had happened. They both fell from the creature at the same time. Looking at the body, the protagonist wished for his soul to rest in peace. Soon after, he performed another prayer as he was going to collect the essence of that body to gain more points. During this process, the demon continued its furious rampage, now focused on completely destroying the city. For the protagonist, this situation was advantageous. The ones who angered the creature were priests from another sect. Even though they had already been defeated, the demon was still out of control, and there had to be a reason for it. The protagonist hadn't imagined that demons were creatures driven by pure instinct. Only then did he notice something in that place and now needed to ask the mother of corruption directly. He decided he would use his new power now, so the hand that accompanied him had to be put away. Filled with motivation, the boy headed straight into the center of the fight. With his tribal tattoos, he was greatly strengthened. The demon didn't expect to find another enemy like him, and when it tried to attack, it missed its target. But the creature had a powerful and flexible tail, and with a single movement, it caused even greater destruction. This gave the protagonist the chance to find the white sword still embedded in the creature's body. He knew exactly what needed to be done, but the closer he got to the sword, the more the creature's body coiled. The demon was certainly planning to perform another one of its dangerous spins. but the protagonist was already prepared for this and waited patiently for the move to be executed. So he backed away from the creature's body, which in the next second unleashed its devastating spin. The protagonist had to move back to avoid being caught in the destruction. The demon's power was so immense it was causing explosions in the city. The shockwaves were so brutal that windows shattered on their own. Even the protagonist felt the strong impact, which would be good for the fight, and now the demonic crocodile was ready to continue its rampage. It's explained that when the boy uses this new authority, his body begins a process of internal weakening. If the battle takes too long, he will end up completely incapacitated. There was no time to lose. The boy went straight for the sword, managing to get his hands on its hilt. Then he remembered the horned being's advice. If the sword hit the monster's weak spot, it would surely be defeated. Our hero was very excited about this, but he ended up doing the exact opposite, removing the artifact from the creature's body and ordering the Lord to wake up. Finally, the monster that seemed out of control regained its rationality. Its demonic body began to dissolve, engulfing the entire city in a bright flash of light. The people still there watched in complete surprise, even the secretary who had helped the protagonist, as there was no reason to explain such a luminous energy. In the midst of the destruction, the Lord's body appeared badly injured. With a smile on his face, the protagonist asked if he had woken up. The Lord said that finding the protagonist was the greatest blessing that could have happened. Pointing to the sword, the protagonist said it was what had been suppressing his mind. After extending a hand to the Lord, he asked if he still needed help. The man finally managed to stand up, saying the coins he had given the boy were truly worth it. That mysterious blue-haired priestess who appeared several chapters ago was concentrating power in one of her hands. She threw a small sphere of energy on the ground, and after that, fire began to spread everywhere. And the same character who had defeated the protagonist before was very surprised. Every time he saw that authority, he was always impressed. In the place where they were, there was no body, and he was sure he had left the protagonist there. It seemed like a long time had passed since that day. The body could have been taken by monsters. The blue-haired woman acknowledged this as a possibility and thanked the old man for taking her to that place, but she still had one last request regarding the nearby towns. She wanted to know the name of each one. Back in the destruction caused by the demon, our protagonist walks through the city, observing everything that happened. He is being led somewhere by the city lord's butler. The boy enters the room with a big smile and is immediately greeted by the lord, who is eagerly awaiting his arrival. He even mentioned that the boy seems to get more presentable as time goes by. Our boy thanked him for the compliments, but the city lord needed to express his gratitude to the demon slayer. However, the protagonist knows the demon is alive, and the Lord said that even creatures like it deserve to live. In fact, the protagonist doesn't disagree with this statement. After the whole cataclysm, the Lord told everyone that the boy was responsible for saving the city, and that his actions had directly saved his life. The protagonist isn't very fond of the fame he received, as it came with the moniker Demon Slayer. The guild secretary, however, loved it and made sure to spread the news to everyone, helping the protagonist become increasingly well known. Everyone was amazed by his deeds, since for all intents and purposes, he defeated that demon without a single scratch. While people speculate about what he can do, the boy just wants to run away. Meeting with the Lord, he mentioned being impressed with the quality of the prosthetics the Lord was using. The Lord revealed he only does this in front of our protagonist. In front of normal people, he pretends to have limited movement, not moving naturally. Because to have this mobility, he has to pay a very high price. Our protagonist was immediately curious to know what it was, and the Lord said he would find out soon enough, because the hair on his head is starting to fall out like leaves in autumn. The Lord is sure that in a matter of months he will be completely bald. This situation made our protagonist very emotional, as hair loss is a sensitive subject for any man. In any case, the Lord wants to know if our protagonist has a free week, and the boy said yes. This answer is perfect, as he has an ideal task for our protagonist. The rumors that he defeated a dark creature are spreading, and this is related to the existence of the Empire's sacred relics. Our protagonist's reward would be many gold coins. They would be paid in advance if he proves his worth in exploring the ruins. They would even be willing to give our boy one of these relics. That's when our protagonist realized things were happening just as the mysterious figure had said, so he needed to check it out for himself. He immediately accepted the job offer. Long ago, there was an ancient empire that marked the Age of Mages, bringing unity to the entire continent. Now that technology has advanced, its sacred relics have become precious treasures, and most of the valuable items in the world today are relics from that ancient empire. After receiving the mission, our protagonist went to meet his collaborators. The person who requested the task is named Valtus. That's a well-known surname, as his father is the leader of the Black Wolves. However, the young man made it clear that he is not the man's official heir. Our protagonist started thinking about it. He never imagined the leader of the Black Wolves would have a son under these circumstances, since he had been alone after losing his wife. Filled with curiosity, our protagonist decided not to ask any more personal questions, so he asked to be introduced to the other people on the task. The one in charge of magic is named Tunisa. and she will guide this expedition to the relics. Meanwhile, the Horned Warrior is named Sukas, responsible for the heavy lifting. Finally, they were formally introduced to our boy, who also told them his name, Marcos. Now that everyone knows each other, the expedition leader wants to start their journey. It will take 2 days to reach their destination. There will be plenty of time to talk as they walk. After 2 long days, they are resting in a clearing. The fire is the only thing illuminating the inhospitable place. Looking at our protagonist, the expedition leader asks if he isn't going to sleep as it's necessary to recover. Our boy said he had slept enough, and even though there's still a long time until sunrise, he doesn't want to sleep. The expedition leader asked if he had any interesting stories to share, guessing our boy had many suitors. Embarrassed by this assumption, our protagonist said he had no experience in such matters. When Valtis asked if he had a particular type of woman, our boy remembered the hand that travels with him, saying he likes women who stay by his side, and the goddess paid close attention to this. Valtis agreed, saying it's great to wake up next to someone special. He believes the most interesting part of a partner is her personality. The mysterious figure ended up liking this opinion, completely approving of the comment. But Valtis said a good heart is the most inviting quality, like the gates to happiness. He told our protagonist that he admires people with great qualities and strong personalities. Our protagonist said it's very important for a person to know their own goals, as this guides each person's personal journey. He suggested the young man not talk about it in front of women, but Valtis said he only mentioned it because they were alone. He feels comfortable when talking to our boy, as if they were good friends. Excited by this, our protagonist ended up agreeing. That night, the two of them ended up laughing a lot and sharing stories. During this time, the mysterious figure recommended that our boy be more selective about making friends, but he really enjoyed talking with Valtis. After that long journey, the girl with them said they had arrived. She began to remove the hood from her face, stating that she was going to open the ruins. Entering the ancient ruins was easy. The first thing they needed to find was the key. Then, they moved to the coordinates written on the key, using the ancient language engraved on it. They finally managed to insert the key into the portal. That shouldn't be enough to grant access to the ruins, but only mages can read the ancient language. That's why they are indispensable for tasks like this one. The only exception is our protagonist, who is a player in this universe. That's why he can read the ancient language. But he decided to keep this fact to himself. With the portal open before them, it was time to enter. Once inside the ruins, our boy was amazed, as it's very difficult to get a key like that. It was as if they were in a completely different world. Compared to the ruins Valtis had explored before, these seemed very well preserved. Our boy is confident they will find many artifacts in this place. He never imagined he would get a chance like this. Since ruins like these were only seen in book illustrations, his heart felt like it would race with excitement. His entire team was focused on exploration. After a short walk, they found a huge gate. In the ancient language, it was written that they must prove they possessed the imperial bloodline. The mage among them said the bloodline was necessary, and it had to be from the empire. Immediately, the doors opened, and now everyone had to prepare for battle. Several creatures were running toward them. Our protagonist's team was practically surrounded, but the warrior with horns on his head was ready for a fight. He possessed a completely disproportionate strength. The group's mage wasn't going to stand by and do nothing either. Her spell caused the entire floor to start cracking. A huge explosion erupted from her efforts. The resulting wave of power was truly overwhelming. Valtis watched everything that was happening intently. Even our boy already had his sword ready. Moving his sword with agility, he took down a few opponents in the process. The monsters that appeared there seemed to be no match for this team. After fighting for a bit, the goddess said something to our boy, which made him react immediately. One of the monsters tried to attack him from behind. Our protagonist had let it slip by, being a little careless. Before he could finish the creature, someone else did it for him. An arrow was shot by one of his allies. Valtis did it with confidence. Our boy greatly appreciated his companion's kindness. At the end of the battle, an argument started. Someone didn't like what the mage had done, as she had pushed enemies in his direction. But the girl said it was the most efficient way to stop them all. Now that they had neutralized all the monsters, she asked the Horned Warrior to be quiet, but he remained irritated. After Valtis intervened, the warrior had to shut up. But the team leader was impressed with our protagonist, who really seemed to be a monster hunter. Our protagonist said he didn't want to show that side of his priesthood, but the truth is Valtis really liked it. Our boy also praised his boss's skill with the bow. Valtis said he has been practicing since he was a child, which is why he's so skilled. In the middle of this conversation, the woman asked when they were going to head out. She was already prepared to march again. Since she still had a lot of mana, she asked everyone to hurry up. The Horned Warrior didn't appreciate all this motivation, as they had just fought hard and hadn't even rested yet. He made it clear that those who fight physically need to rest. The mage ignored his speech, believing her other companions would agree with her. The faster they finished these ruins, the better. She also said the Horned Warrior was just being dramatic, which made the young man very angry. Valtis had the final say, stating they would rest before moving forward. This left the woman quite displeased. Visibly nervous about the argument, our boy started to smile apprehensively. There's something particular about mages in this world. They are almost always very arrogant and extremely difficult. It's very easy to become a mage in this place. You just have to be born as one, although there are some differences from person to person. Those who possess mana have these powers blossom at a certain age. When this happens, knowledge of the ancient language appears in their minds, and without any kind of teaching, they also learn to use spells, using mana to break the rules of this world, being definitively reborn as true mages. But because of the great knowledge that fills their heads, they hate learning new things. That's why most of them become difficult people of few words, hardly caring about the people around them. And surprisingly, this woman with them is one of the most polite mages there is. Finally, they had rested enough. They were ready to continue the expedition. After everyone stood up, the roar of a creature was heard by all. The sound was coming from the end of the hallway. Right after that, the ground also began to crack. Valtis realized the door had closed behind them. This made his team look in that direction. They saw a large magic portal open, and from it, a stone golem was emerging. The creature landed on the ground destructively. Its eyes were glowing with a threatening aura. Our protagonist was excited about this. He was already suspicious of the strength of the adversaries in these ruins. It seemed they would now have a real challenge, and that monster was the obstacle that needed to be overcome. The horned warrior already had his sword ready, but before he could do anything, the mage told him to get back immediately. Before the fight began, she would use one of her techniques. Reciting something in the ancient language, she made a great power appear at the tip of her staff. A large volume of rocks was hurled toward the creature, positioned above its head. The golem's single eye began to glow as well. It was at that moment that the expedition leader felt something was wrong. He said it was dangerous, ordering Tunisa to get out of the creature's way. Just as he had said, a sphere of energy appeared in front of the golem. The creature had fired something extremely destructive in their direction. Our protagonist and his companions were all on edge. It all happened too fast. They were already caught in an explosion. The arrogant mage realized in that moment that despite her vast knowledge, she was still mortal. Before her, the golem was ready to prove that no one lives forever. With a single blow, it defeated her. Even their horned companion was terrified watching it happen. The girl was arrogant, but she didn't deserve that end. The group was now missing a member. Our protagonist noticed his companion was in shock and desperately yelled for him to move, but the poor guy couldn't react. He was thrown forcefully against the nearest wall. His body suffered significant damage. For the monster, only 2 enemies remained to be defeated. Facing the danger, our protagonist asked if Valtis intended to get out of there alive. Fearfully, he said yes, and our protagonist ordered the young man to hold on tight. Without understanding what that meant, he was hit with a blow to the chin. This way, our protagonist managed to pull him from the fight. Speaking to the mother of corruption, he said there was no time for prayers this time. She needed to send that creature immediately. That's when the golem saw its new adversary. The pale, imposing creature launched into an attack. It struck the enemy monster with precision. While they were engaged in a fierce battle, our protagonist had the chance to escape. It's a real advantage to be able to count on that bizarre creature. In the process, our boy managed to absorb a few things, gaining divinity points. They were the weapons of his fallen companions. In a safe place, he managed to lay the expedition leader on the ground. But now, our protagonist needed to think about other things. The fight between those creatures would take a long time. That's when the mother of corruption began to speak to him, giving our boy a brilliant idea. He no longer wanted to waste time and decided to use his second authority to fight. He had only one target. That large metal monster that had defeated his companions. In fact, our protagonist wanted to claim the bluish gem on its head. With the pale creature's help, it would be very easy to get it. And since that stone was the only different part of its body, something must happen if it's destroyed. Given this, our protagonist decided to find out what would happen. After climbing onto the pale creature's body, he leaped toward the enemy, aiming directly for the blue sphere. He completely destroyed the object with the help of his sword. After landing that precise blow, our boy returned to the ground. It seemed his enemy could no longer move. With the battle over, the pale creature began to roar, having emerged victorious. Despite the roars, our protagonist thanked it for the help. It was at that exact moment that the mother of corruption pointed to something. Other portals appeared in that place, and more monsters, just like the first, were being summoned. It was then that our protagonist realized it would be very nice to have more than one change of clothes, because this time he would have to face several metal creatures. Even the pale monster he had summoned didn't like this idea. Our protagonist wondered how many he would have to face to get out safely. Later, the expedition leader managed to wake up, returning to the harsh reality. His companions had been defeated, and our boy was still lamenting what happened. He wished he could have saved them, but it all happened too fast. Valtis said that when the metal giant appeared, they should have activated the key. Now, full of regret, he believed the losses were due to his greed. But our protagonist informed him that those people were hired for a reason, and they were fully aware of what could have happened. Now they needed to understand where they were. Our protagonist said they were beyond the black door. At that moment, Valtis was completely bewildered. but then he came to his senses. Realizing he had been knocked out to be saved, he didn't want to ask our protagonist too many questions. He assured him that he would repay this debt somehow. Our boy was happy with this attitude, revealing he was eager to be paid in the future. In fact, he tended to accept people's offers, and if his companion was well enough, it was time to move because he hadn't defeated the metal giant. He had chosen to flee from all of them. Valtis, after hearing this, decided it was time to move forward. But after defeating that first enemy, our boy was confronted by 3 more. To escape, he left the albino giant to face the enemies alone. This way, he managed to open the door and push the expedition leader inside. The instruction he gave the albino giant was to return after it was all over. He just hoped the creature wouldn't be upset about it. After walking down that corridor, our boy found something. That seemed to be the end of these mysterious ruins. He instructed the expedition leader to examine the place. After entering the next hall, they found a guarded artifact as well as a small necklace. For them, this was confirmation that the stories in the books were completely real. Valtis had something to ask our protagonist, even though he acknowledged he had no right to do so. He wanted to keep the necklace, promising he would reward our protagonist for it, but our boy had no idea what that artifact could be. Valtis said it was called the Bloodline Pathfinder. If you place a sample on it and think of bloodline you're searching for, the necklace will use the user's sample to point the way. Our protagonist had a vague idea of what Valtis wanted to do with it, and to be frank, it was quite obvious. He wanted to find his own mother, a person he had never met. Given this, our boy asked if he could keep the sword that looked more like a saw. Honestly, it was a perfect fit for him. After collecting the items, they made a campfire outside. Valtis wanted to avoid any piece of metal bigger than him for the rest of his life. If they had lingered in that room any longer, things would have gotten very complicated. Valtis even started to believe they were going to perish. And because of that, he had something to say to our priest. He wanted to receive a blessing from him after such a dangerous journey. Our protagonist said he could do it immediately. Valtis then closed his eyes. With a drop of blood, he asked the goddess of preservation to protect them, which made the mother of corruption furious. Valtis was ready to use the artifact. He dripped a bit of his sample onto the necklace. Immediately, a mysterious energy manifested before them, and by all indications, the young man seemed to have received some guidance. An arrow appeared on it, pointing in a direction, giving him hope. He now knew his mother was alive. Our protagonist was happy the artifact was working. Valtis made it clear this only happened because of the young man and didn't know how to repay the debt. Our boy said he would accept his gratitude. Then, the young man revealed he had one last favor to ask. He wanted to continue working with our protagonist until he could find his mother. Since they were heading in the same direction, they could pass through the capital, so our protagonist could be rewarded for this job. Valtis guaranteed he would cover all the expenses for this trip as he had sufficient resources. Our protagonist was inclined to accept, but he was sure his true intentions would be read. He remained silent, staring at the campfire, while the young man waited for an answer, until the silence started to become awkward. Our protagonist didn't want to be seen as someone shallow, so he stood up and shook the young man's hand, promising he would assist him on this great journey. This brought great enthusiasm to Valtis. Back in the city, the secretary wasn't pleased to hear our protagonist was already leaving, especially after everything she had done for him. She found his behavior unacceptable, and the mother of corruption started to feel jealous. The girl asked to see our protagonist's hands, but he didn't understand what for. Usually, something like that isn't ready so quickly, but she had done her best to make it happen, and our boy was surprised by the gift he received, a mercenary's insignia, and it was made in record time. The receptionist now awaited our protagonist's words. Not knowing what to say, he just said thank you, but she wanted to hear a see you later and a promise that he would visit her. That was the answer he was supposed to give, and hearing it, the mother of corruption was displeased. With his eyes closed, our protagonist wanted to apologize to this girl. Since he lives a life of wandering, he might not be able to keep that promise. The girl said that if he kept living like this, he would never be able to date anyone and might end up alone. That's why she had something to say to him, wishing him a see you later, which left our protagonist very surprised. The girl wanted to see him there again soon, if he had the chance, and she hoped it would happen even sooner than he imagined. Confused by her words, the girl told him he didn't need to know everything, just keep thinking, because that was the last thing she would give him, a little lesson. After that, he went to meet the city's lord and was met with a difficult scene. The side effects of his condition were severe, and the poor demon's appearance was completely altered. But back to the main topic, he heard our protagonist was heading to the capital. He rushed to prepare everything as soon as he got the news. Our protagonist doesn't know what's in the envelope, but it's a letter of recommendation. The Lord would have liked to pay with money, but he had exhausted his resources rebuilding the city. Since our boy is going to the capital, he wrote this letter of recommendation. It could be useful, as he has friends there. Since they are very difficult to deal with, the Lord recommended not visiting them unless it was absolutely necessary. Our boy is grateful for the gift, and the Lord said he did it as a friend, wishing him a wonderful life from now on because for all intents and purposes, life is always too short. Now our boy is already on his journey. It's been a few days since they left the city behind. Even so, they still have half a day's travel to reach the next destination. Even after all this time, the mother of corruption doesn't like our boy's new friend. She only accepted him for one reason. Valtis was assessed as having high potential. If his skills are analyzed, our boy will receive 10,000 divinity points. Not to mention he has the potential to become even more powerful. This makes our protagonist quite enthusiastic. He also likes his radiant personality, so he'd like to keep him around. But his thoughts were soon interrupted. Our protagonist immediately drew his sword. Valtis doesn't know what's happening, but our protagonist sensed a dangerous presence, and it's approaching their location very quickly. His sword is already poised for action, and something rushed past where they were. A giant spider is ready to face the pair. It emerged from the middle of the forest. Valtis was terrified when he looked at the monster, because this creature is absurdly large. A snow spider. It hurled something in his direction, but Valtis already has his bow ready. Even so, he wasn't fast enough and had to be saved by our protagonist, who managed to strike the creature and managed to injure one of its legs. Our protagonist realized that the next time he used this sword, he would cause massive damage to this place. It seems he was overcome by a battle frenzy. He acted with impressive efficiency, but our boy was already consumed by this feeling of power. With our protagonist's departure from the city, the Lord received an interesting visitor. It's the blue-haired priestess. He apologizes for having her in a messy room, but the city was recently damaged. But she doesn't mind. This leads the Lord to ask the reason for her visit, as it's unusual for the blue flame of the torch sect to be there. Then she placed a paper on the man's desk for him to examine. She wants to know if he has seen a man who looks like that. Despite the vague description, he immediately recognized our protagonist. Before answering, he'd like to know what this man did to be wanted. The woman said it's for personal reasons. This made the Lord apologize, claiming he couldn't recall anyone specific. He suggested the blue-haired girl continue her journey, as he didn't have much time to waste on such meetings. She seemed to get the message, leaving his room immediately. But the Lord realized she didn't have good intentions toward our protagonist, and he hoped he was safe, as he couldn't tell him what was happening. In the middle of the frozen forest, our boy managed to defeat the monsters, but he wanted to know what his friend was doing. He said he was extracting the spider's venom. Its paralyzing effects are very potent and can be used in various ways. It's very useful for coating the tips of his arrows, and it's also a good item to sell. Our protagonist wants to know how he knows something like that, and the young man revealed he had been on many hunts, because there's nothing better than learning through experience, removing a venom gland in the process. Our girl was impressed by this, but she still decided to help him. Valtis decided he would teach our protagonist as they were close to the next town, and so when they arrived, they could take an excellent bath. Near the city gates, the guards are startled because they saw our protagonist and his friend approaching covered in filth. Immediately, one of the guards decided to approach them. Quite frightened, he asked how they managed to get there. Our protagonist said they did it on foot, and the guard revealed that the city had been blockaded for the last 3 days because of the monsters that had appeared. Showing interest in the matter, our protagonist asked for more details. Apparently, the attacks are becoming more frequent. When they investigate, they can't find any clues, not even the missing people. Valtis wants to know if the man is talking about the people attacked by the spiders. If so, that's very strange. The creature feeds on its victims, so it's very unusual for it to leave no trace. That's when someone called out to the two of them. The lord of that city wants to see them immediately, and the guard said he would take them to this person, leaving our protagonist and his friend quite curious. The lord received them with great enthusiasm. He knows of our protagonist's fame as a monster hunter and is honored to have him in his city. Our boy already knows about the situation they're facing with the creatures, which is why the Lord summoned them, revealing that it wasn't just caused by the monsters. It's an organization that follows an evil spirit. But our protagonist believes that blocking access to an entire city might be too grand a task for a small association of fanatics. But from what the Lord learned from the priests, there must be at least 4 sects involved in isolating this city. Kelton, compared to other regions, is a rather ordinary city. He doesn't know why this is happening right after he was appointed the new Lord. The Lord began to lament, wishing his father were still alive, as he would have known how to resolve this situation. At least they have plenty of food in the city, and the troops' morale has not yet been shaken. But since they are completely isolated, the other cities don't know what's happening yet. That's why they need people capable of getting past the monsters to bring this news to other regions. They need a squad of extremely brave and fearless people to accomplish this task. And the Lord looks intently at our protagonist, who seems to have gotten the message. He wants to comment on this task, promising that he would help in any way possible. Now, isolated in his room, he heard from the mother of corruption that he should have confronted the Lord and left. But our boy doesn't agree with that, as he received a very interesting item from these people. That can only be found in the eastern deserts. He never thought he would find that artifact here. This way, his blade will remain in perfect condition after use. He also learned from the Mother of Corruption that if he places his blade there, it will be enhanced. And that's exactly what our boy did. Living life with all its comforts is the best thing he can do right now. Our protagonist made sure to store the artifact in his inventory, and there's something he'd like to say about that. The real reason he accepted the task is that he thinks the game's true mission will begin soon. What led him to believe this is the collaboration of those fanatics. Forced sex is too many to cooperate. An adverse spirit might be intimidating, but in this game's universe, they don't have much power. It's just a title that the major deities give to the minor ones. But among the worshippers of these spirits, it's nearly impossible to find anyone who is mentally stable. In other words, it's unlikely for these individuals to cooperate with one another. That's why our protagonist has a feeling that something is up. This city's isolation is definitely not normal. Outside, he's already on his horse, ready to put the mission into action. It wasn't long before they were chased by the spiders. Our protagonist realized the time was coming. He told his friend he would draw the creature's attention, but the young man was very worried about this idea. Valtis believes that even for our protagonist, this could be very dangerous. But our boy knows they will soon be caught, and his companion must be aware of this too. What they need now, reinforcements. And our boy said that Valtis needs to return with them. After that, he abandoned his horse to stay behind, leaving his friend in a complete panic. Our protagonist thinks he just acted really cool, but the Mother of Corruption is utterly embarrassed. He jumped from the horse, landing in the soft snow. Meanwhile, his friend moves on to the next town. The others with them also watched it all unfold. Among the spiders, there are also ferocious wolves. Several dangerous creatures are in the middle of that frozen forest, but there is an existence even more threatening than all of them. Our protagonist made a great effort to put on an act in front of those people. Now, with his blade in hand, he's ready for the confrontation. It's time to face these creatures and find the worshippers of adverse spirits. The monsters are advancing toward our protagonist, unaware of the sad fate that awaits them. Our boy charges with his blade against all his enemies. It is truly efficient at causing destruction, defeating anyone who crosses his path. The spiders are neutralized before they know what happened, and the wolves are defeated with no chance to react. The snow is marked by the trail of the battle. Our boy realized that if he has to do this every day, it would be a good idea to start carrying a portable toilet. He'll talk to the Mother of Corruption about this soon. It seems the enemies already know he's coming, but they have no interest in welcoming him. About to enter what looks like a cave, our boy is quite excited. Inside the place, there are some objects. He remembered someone had said that the carriages attacked on their way to the city were empty. Soon, he found the first traveler who didn't survive. Our boy looked to examine the scene. This poor citizen was a victim of the spiders. He even understands the monsters need to feed, but he doesn't understand the place's decoration, as several victims had been captured and stuck to the ceiling. Faced with the Mother of Corruption's concern, our boy told her to relax, as he won't let his guard down now. What he'd really like to know is how many people lost their lives here. There are far more than the spiders could consume in 3 days. While continuing to examine the cave, our boy noticed something. He entered a very large chamber. It almost looks like a giant's residence. And that's not all. He felt a very intense divine energy, along with great hostility. Our guy asked if the being wouldn't reveal itself, and a great red energy appeared. He already knew he was being watched by a giant spider, and it was in the company of its offspring. The creature is preparing to attack. It descended to the ground, making a huge impact in the process. Our protagonist asked the Mother of Corruption to create that magic barrier. Immediately, the floor of the cave began to transform, leaving our protagonist quite pleased, because now he can use his authority with great joy. The albino giant is also appearing, and our protagonist has a goal. That spider will be handed over to the Mother of Corruption, showing that dialogue is not an option. The albino giant arrived using force, while our protagonist is preparing to use the power of the Maori tattoos. The truth is, the albino giant's fight won't be easy. He is already being attacked by the spider. With its legs, it managed to injure the creature and push it back. The two giants are fighting violently and grimly. That's when our boy noticed that the spider is twice the size of his ally, and she is very determined to win. Given this, our protagonist needs to find a path to victory. The first thing he does is use his blade. With a few moves, he defeated some smaller adversaries, feeling he could now focus on the queen's body. That's why he'll make sure not to damage it yet. He was also advised by the Mother of Corruption that there must be some weak spot on her body. Before he could think about it, he noticed a spider decided to attack him, but it was soundly defeated with a single blow. And our boy seems to have understood something very interesting about the divinity within this monster's body. The best strategy would be to immobilize the creature's legs. Approaching the epicenter of the combat, he ordered the albino giant to rush forward, promising he would help him this time. All our protagonist needs is for this spider to stop moving. As soon as he received his new mission, the albino giant began to carry it out, grabbing the spider's legs with his hands. At least he has more than two. The spider soon realized it was being immobilized, and And while all this happens, our protagonist approaches decisively. His enemy may be large, but in the end, it's still a spider, and he will strike the weak point between the two parts of its body. Our boy managed to land a precise blow on the thinnest part of that monster. He is determined to do it again and attacking the creature with his blade. The spider sensed that staying in this position could be fatal, and our boy continued using his sword, delivering as many blows as possible. The impact of the clash echoes throughout the cave. The spider, unfortunately, will no longer be able to move. Our protagonist will make sure of that. The albino giant continues to hold its victim while our protagonist prepares to use all his power. Their collaboration seems to have been very effective. Still holding part of the spider's body, the albino giant broke 2 of its legs, a process made easier by our boy's strikes. Now that it's all over, the giant seems very upset with our protagonist, who apologized for what he had done last time. Showing great passion, the giant shouted furiously, and our protagonist heard the complaints of an unknown person. Someone was hidden in the shadows watching the entire battle. It's a woman, and she was inside the spider's body. As soon as he saw that, our boy said he already knew it was a person. But this woman seems completely enraged. She wants to know who our protagonist thinks he is to interfere with her plans, claiming he's also a follower of an adverse spirit just like her. Saying he doesn't know how much time she lost to gain control of that queen, he gets straight to the point and asks her purpose in that city. The woman said she wouldn't tell, but our protagonist has his methods of persuasion. He presses his blade against her to show he's serious. Now that he has her attention, he repeated the question. But the woman remains defiant. Realizing she's in a fragile situation, she began to smile, promising she wouldn't reveal the truth even if her life were ended. That wasn't exactly what our boy wanted to hear, and the woman realized she was facing a truly dangerous person because he defeated her for good. Our protagonist realizes he's not good at interrogations. Thanks to this victory, he also gained 1,000 divinity points. After doing that, our boy doesn't know how many followers will be willing to tell the truth, and according to the mother of corruption, there are 3 more here. Our boy also absorbed the queen's energy and hopes the others in the cave are very stubborn. After leaving the cave, our boy returned to the city only to find it completely burned down. It seems the enemy won. His colleague is also no longer among the living. The ones responsible for this didn't like to waste time. There was a lot of work to defeat him. A blonde man wants to know how the incarnation is going, and a woman said it's unstable, as it's not easy to extract divinity from living organisms. And besides this process not being completely ready, they lost some allies. The black-haired woman was furious as they need to move forward with the plans, even if the chance of success is low. She also said she didn't do it on purpose. In fact, she did her best. But those men were getting in the way, the guards who were there to protect the individual. If they had help from some spiders, it would have been easier. Unfortunately, the man with the bow and arrow managed to escape, and the woman is sure they should have captured him. The woman with the eye patch noticed that Leela, possibly the spider woman, hasn't arrived yet, but even if she were there to help, she would just waste time on the fallen. For the blonde man, this discussion is over. They don't need to keep arguing. Since one person escaped the city, troops will soon be sent to stop them. And now they need to remember how many years were invested to make this plan a reality. The black-haired woman warned that she knows this very well and doesn't want to see the blonde man continue playing the leader. She didn't let that individual escape on purpose and won't accept any more criticism for letting someone get away. Noticing all this agitation, the one-eyed woman believes her coworker is going through personal problems. She also knows that her 2 colleagues are getting close and they might have had problems in their relationship. Given this, she will give them some privacy, which only made the other woman even more furious. That's when the blonde man told them to stop arguing, as he will blame the escape on the spider woman, and that seems to have pleased his companion. Now she will finally be quiet, but soon the one-eyed woman was suddenly defeated. It's our protagonist who has just arrived, and he is ready to start confrontation with these people, using his bread slicer as a weapon. The blonde man, witnessing this, was terrified. He didn't even have time to react and was quickly defeated. The only person left standing is that woman who won't stop complaining. She's trying to understand what's happening, as part of our protagonist was consumed by the flames. Desperate, the woman said that no one defeats the last person standing without asking questions, and our boy agreed. But those people there can also manipulate divinity, which could be dangerous for our protagonist. Wanting to avoid any side effects, he said he would attack. The woman asked why our boy was talking to himself. That's when he noticed something. The woman is completely terrified. Our boy decided to take advantage of the situation. He knows she's a worshiper of evil spirits, so he asked what the purpose of the siege on the city was. After a few minutes, he was stunned by the answer. The planning took 3 years. He was taken to the city square to see something huge. The woman said that if it wasn't for something like this, wasting so much time wouldn't have been worth it. This woman's name is Parna, and she gave up the information as soon as she was questioned. In short, the story is very simple. They wanted to use the life force of everyone in the city to create a sphere called an incarnation. To complete their plans, they had to hide on the city's outskirts for the past 3 years, but they still needed 5 more days of preparation. But thanks to recent events, they had to rush. Now our boy is getting his weapon ready for action. The woman is terrified of her potential future. Our protagonist said he will defeat this monster, which was strengthened with the energy of innocence. Parna screams desperately for him not to do it, but our boy ignores her complaints. That's when the woman said something will happen if the creature is in danger. Our boy was struck by a malevolent energy. This monster will awaken completely unstable if attacked like this, and it didn't like being hurt. Its monstrous form keeps repeating the same phrase, "That hurts." From the middle of that mass, an albino monster was born. Our boy brought a hand to the wound on his shoulder. He learned from the mother of corruption that there is a sacred relic inside that creature. It's time to awaken a new authority and perform a great ritual for his mother. The woman, watching everything in complete terror, doesn't understand our protagonist's actions. She believes none of this will work, and since she wouldn't stop talking, our boy had to stop her permanently. That was her punishment. Thanks to this, our boy gained a few more divinity points, and in total, he has an incredible 8,500 points. He managed to extract a lot of divinity from those who fell in that place. Now he's very eager to get his new authority, because he has a powerful monster to defeat now. He also realized his weapon's attacks are useless, as the creature regenerates quickly. Meanwhile, if he keeps getting injured, he'll end up losing this fight. Unlike the Spider Queen, he hasn't been able to identify a weak spot on this monster yet. There is only one choice for our protagonist. Prepared to execute it, he held his sword firmly. He fled the dark combat immediately, leaving even the creature surprised. It watches intently as our protagonist moves away, only to scream with all its fury. Moving through the city, our boy managed to absorb the divinity of one of the fallen. He only needs a few more points to awaken his next authority, and as he passes the fallen, he can absorb this energy. He decides he'll keep doing this until he has enough points to awaken his next authority. All this while the monster continues to chase its prey. This has just turned into a game, which makes our boy excited. If he gets caught, he loses. If he awakens his authority, he'll be the winner. The furious creature seems to be using some kind of ability, and its single eye began to glow. Our protagonist felt something different in his body. He was caught in the shockwave caused by the scream. Even the sound waves possess divine power. This thing is definitely a walking disaster. Tentacles are now sprouting from the creature's body. This made our protagonist realize he needs to use his sword immediately. With its strength, the monster shattered everything in front of its tentacles, but it wasn't able to hit our protagonist, who is now asking the mother of corruption for help. A huge portal opened above the monster's head, and he realized another albino creature is joining the battle in the city. The protagonist's creature arrived ready for a confrontation, striking its enemy with all its might, completely devastating the city square. Our protagonist had already imagined something like this would happen. He watches the great albino giant intently, which is now being struck by the creature's tentacles. But just one giant of corruption won't be enough to win this battle. Our boy recommended that his creature not overexert itself, as he would return soon. But to do that, he needs to absorb the energy of those who fell, preferably well-trained soldiers. The flames have already consumed most of the remains. This made our boy realize that too much time had passed. He might not be able to absorb what he needs. If he had known something like this would happen, he would have prepared a little better. Even so, our protagonist has already managed to gather 9,200 points. He's close to getting his new authority. That's why he keeps running through the city without stopping. Until he was surprised by a strange noise, he saw with his own eyes that something shattered on the path ahead. Our protagonist had to shield himself from the approaching debris. At the same time, he drew his sword to protect himself. The monster's tentacles are already there too. He was nearly defeated, saved only by his weapon. Our protagonist is using his combat skills to stay on his feet, and the monster is determined to defeat him at any cost. It manages to surprise our protagonist by approaching from above. As soon as the creature landed, it also destroyed a large part of the ground, but it still hasn't been able to hit our protagonist effectively. It seems the creature's face and body have started to change, and this was immediately noticed by our protagonist. His adversary seems to have undergone some kind of maturation after fighting against the giant of corruption. The two are now facing each other, ready to deliver some great combat scenes. Looking at our protagonist, the creature extended its hand towards him, while showing an extremely malevolent smile. From its arm, several tentacles were launched in our boy's direction. He watched the approach of this attack very carefully. He managed to stop the tentacles that got too close to his body. Apparently, the creature didn't expect things to happen this way, and our protagonist decided that attacking was the best solution. But as soon as he got close to the creature, he could see that it was also prepared for this. It managed to use its tentacles to completely immobilize our boy's body. Now that it has him immobilized, the monster is going to strike back, manipulating its tentacles to throw our boy as if he were an object. Looking up, our boy realized he was on a collision course with the ground, resulting in a completely powerful and devastating impact. A large cloud of dust and debris was kicked up, and at the epicenter of the impact is our protagonist. He told the mother of corruption that everything is fine and that, in fact, he's very lucky. Apparently, she doesn't remember what the worshippers of that evil spirit said in their final moments. In his final moments, his companion had been protected by very capable soldiers, and our protagonist ended up in a very opportune place, near those who had fallen. Far away, the creature watches the dust cloud, clenching its fists filled with fury. It began to scream uncontrollably, as if announcing the destruction it was about to cause. But our protagonist is already completely calm, offering the essence of the fallen to the mother of corruption. The spiritual fire began to consume it. Slowly, our boy's divinity points are accumulating, all thanks to the energy he managed to absorb at the last moment. Finally, our beloved protagonist has earned the necessary points to unlock his next authority. It seems the creature felt it too, because our protagonist is ready to ask for the Mother of Corruption's blessing, offering the divinity points he had accumulated so far, immediately asking for a new authority to be granted to him. Watching all this, the creature understood that its fate could be short and far from easy, as a great darkness engulfed our protagonist, and these shadows spread throughout the entire city. The creature saw our protagonist approaching it very calmly, unsure of what could have caused this. Like a formidable adversary, our protagonist is approaching with his weapon, and he promised that the creature would be stopped. Even though it's a creature of few words, the monster seems to have understood the message. Our boy told the creature to pay close attention to his next words, but the monster decided to ignore him, releasing more tentacles ready to attack again. This new authority of our boy is called the Corruption Hole. It's capable of affecting all living beings that enter it. Our protagonist is no exception to this rule, and he managed to use the text of corruption to fight. Covered in special marks, he can choose which parts of his being are affected first, picking those that aren't necessary for battle. That's when the monster realized it had already been hit. Our boy is very curious to see what will happen with this creature's regeneration. It can't be more powerful than his new authority. With the help of his blade, our protagonist continued the fight with great skill. Soon, the creature learned to retreat, begging our boy to stop. Its form was now completely weakened. Finally, our protagonist defeated his enemy with a final blow. He gained access to the relic that was inside the creature. As a result, he offered the artifact to the Mother of Corruption. This allowed her to destroy another seal. As the relic was absorbed, a great luminous energy manifested. Everything returned to normal and daylight broke over the city. Our boy looks around, trying to understand what happened. He notices a little girl is now in the square as well. Still very confused, our protagonist tries to figure out if this is real. But this small child bears a striking resemblance to the hand he used to carry. She must be the Mother of Corruption. As he's thinking about this, the little girl decides to approach him. She really is the Mother of Corruption. Our protagonist felt it the moment he first saw her, but he doesn't understand why she would ask him why she appears as a child, since she should have that answer. In fact, our protagonist has a few questions of his own to ask. The energy of another entity is present in that creature, and our protagonist wants to know if she can absorb it. It would be a great shame to let that energy go to waste. Immediately, the Mother of Corruption pointed her hand at the remaining energy. Now she's trying to absorb it, but no matter how hard she tries, she ends up completely frustrated. Our protagonist told her not to try so hard if it isn't possible. Since the energies of the deities are mixed, it's probably impossible to absorb it all. So there's nothing they can do now. At least they managed to break another seal with the help of that sacred relic. Our protagonist now asked for the Mother of Corruption's help once more. The little girl's eyes began to glow. A new authority is about to be granted to our boy. A huge flash of light filled the devastated city. The energy is so immense it can be seen from miles away. Our protagonist wants to know the meaning of the new authority he just received. He hears from the Mother of Corruption that he should use this power as much as he wants. He found that a bit interesting and curious, as it's a very powerful authority. What he has just received is the Curse of Corruption, an authority with great destructive potential. All living beings within his range, which is as large as a small city, will slowly begin to weaken. Our protagonist isn't afraid to use this against his adversaries, but harming innocents to gain power is not something he wants to do. Now he wants to find out why a relic like that was inside the incarnation. It might not be a coincidence. Perhaps the Mother of Corruption's power was used to create that creature. The thought deeply disturbs our protagonist, because there's an even bigger problem to solve now, since our boy has received several interesting powers. Completely exhausted from the battle, he collapsed to the ground with no strength left to stand, a clear sign that his body couldn't take any more. He had finally reached his limit. As he slowly loses consciousness, our boy watches the Mother of Corruption cry, until finally he opened his eyes. Valtis managed to find our boy and is very grateful that he's awake, but our protagonist is bothered by something. He can't feel the hand hanging on his chest. So he gets up agitated, demanding to know where his things are. His friend tells him to calm down a bit, promising to explain everything. But our protagonist remains agitated until he hears the voice of the Mother of Corruption. That seems to have caught his attention, and Valtis appears to be holding something in his hands. It's the amulet our protagonist carries. He only got scared like that because he thought he had lost the amulet. Valtis knows it holds deep meaning for our protagonist. Even though he was told to get rid of it, he kept it so our protagonist could have it back. This made our young man incredibly grateful. He doesn't even know how to thank him. Valtis was embarrassed by our young man's reaction, saying it was nothing. Because if it weren't for the great sacrifice he made, Valtis is sure he would have died before getting out of the city. This makes our protagonist wonder where they are now, only to find out they're still in the city of Kelton. Our boy wants to know how long he was unconscious, and to his surprise, it was a total of 10 days. He asks if there were any survivors from the great confrontation. It seems only one person survived in that city, and that person is our protagonist. Far away, in another place, someone confronted one of the men. The individual seems to be trying to escape from some pursuers. Unable to move his leg, he fell to the ground. A woman walks calmly through this place, and her presence makes all the other men terrified. It's the blue-haired priestess, and the injured man is begging for his life. The priestess doesn't seem very merciful. The poor man continues to plead, desperate. The woman tells him he will certainly never be able to walk again. He promised he wouldn't try to run away again, but she has already drawn her sword. Looking at her, the man keeps insisting, but he is ultimately defeated. After doing this, the priestess began to pray, asking for the invocation of the sacred flame, causing the man's essence to be purified by the heat. The others who witnessed this are now even more frightened. Turning her attention to them, the blue-haired woman ordered them to get moving. And that's exactly what they are doing now. All of them have their hands tied. They are clearly prisoners. As they travel, the blue-haired woman watches them with her sword. They have a long journey ahead of them across the frozen sea. A guard asks if these men will be handed over to him. In front of him is a prisoner who appears to be badly injured. He and his companions are on their knees begging the guard. They ask to be put in jail as they don't want to be in the company of the blue-haired woman. If it were up to her, these men wouldn't be here anymore. The guard explained that the Lord of Kelton was the one who put a bounty on these men, but he fell after being attacked by worshippers of evil spirits, and it will take some time before the reward can be delivered. The guard also mentioned that the worshippers, as well as the creature they summon, were all defeated by our protagonist. He was unconscious for 10 days due to the fierce battle, but he has just woken up. The priestess is very interested in the demon hunter, as that is our protagonist's reputation, so she began to question the guard about him. He must be the greatest enemy of these evil worshippers, and she wants to know if our protagonist will be staying in this city for long. In the city tavern, things are very lively. Someone is trying to find out from the drunks where our protagonist is. Just mentioning his name makes all the drunks cheer, celebrating everything he has done. While they are celebrating intensely, the blue-haired priestess is waiting for an answer, hearing from those men that our protagonist is the greatest enemy of the evil spirits. Outside the city, some horses are approaching very quickly. In fact, it's our protagonist and his faithful companion Valtis. By all indications, they are fleeing. Our boy heard the message from the man in the other city. He was informed that there's a blue-haired girl who's very interested in him, and it doesn't seem to be the kind of interest a man would be flattered by. Quite scared, he asked if she knows he's alive. The man said she didn't seem sure, but he noticed something obvious. This woman will definitely not pass up the chance to find our boy. That's why they had to leave the city immediately. After hearing some advice from the mother of corruption, our young man said he already knows. It would be too dangerous to stay in Kelton. He must know by now. The blue-haired woman looking for him is the strongest among all humans, rated at 4.5 fingers by the mother of corruption. Since their departure was unexpected, our boy thanked Valtis for agreeing to it. The truth is, he liked the suggestion, as he also dislikes receiving too much attention. After hearing this, our protagonist was sure he really likes his new friend, which made the mother of corruption quite jealous. 2 weeks have passed, and they are still traveling. Valtis says he could be wrong, but the carriage ahead of them belongs to the enrollment family. They watch the caravans approach carefully. Our protagonist knows this family belongs to the High Lord who lives in the south. Their symbol is a white flower, a camellia. Our boy wonders if they should greet them since they are about to meet, and it might be a good idea. It's very likely someone important is in that caravan. Valtis suggested they make way in silence. Finally, the two groups met. Our protagonist continues to walk calmly. That's when he felt something peculiar. It led him to approach Valtis, as he knows there's someone tied up inside that carriage. Right after that, the soldiers from the caravan prepared to attack. One of them said he'd let the two of them pass if they didn't interfere, but that's not what happened. Now they would have to face the consequences. Before long, an intense confrontation began. The enemies were quickly overwhelmed in combat. The bandits were using their swords to attack. That's when their leader realized things weren't going as planned. Our protagonist is using his blade to handle the situation, as he knows these people are kidnappers. Only 8 enemies are left to be defeated. Their leader is already terrified. He told his men to hurry up, that they needed to end this immediately, saying they shouldn't be afraid of just 2 people. This prompted all the bandits to charge, while their leader watched intently. Even though he was far away, he was hit by an arrow and neutralized. Our protagonist's friend is a really good shot. Right after that, he noticed someone nearby was unwell. Our boy is already helping the person who was tied up. Valtis wants to know if they found out her name, but given the immediate circumstances, they're in no position to ask questions. Apparently, the woman still can't move properly. Her eyes have been closed this whole time, and she might belong to the enrollment family. The girl finally said she didn't need any more more help, but confessed she still felt very unwell. Valtis was immediately struck by the woman's presence, and she's thanking them for saving her, revealing that she is the eldest daughter of Kalto Irimal. Her name is Dakia. Since our protagonist's friend knows these people, he's aware that the man's eldest daughter is a mage. Our protagonist never imagined he'd be traveling in the company of a nobleman and a mage. Just by looking at her, he got the impression she might be rude despite her noble demeanor. Valtis said they could worry about that later, as he could tell the girl has a big heart. While the two were whispering, the girl discreetly asked for their attention. She wanted to know the names of those who saved her, even though she noticed our protagonist is a priest. Our young man said he's a worshiper of the goddess of preservation and that he can be called Marcos. The girl really liked that name. In fact, she has a favor to ask him. Since she's having trouble walking properly, she'd like some help. She was forced to inhale an anesthetic gas, and it seems it's still active in her system. Valtis didn't miss the opportunity. While introducing himself, he offered to help her. The girl asked if he really wanted to do that. If he were seen walking with her, and if those rumors spread to the capital, he would be in serious trouble. People might get the wrong idea, and there would be much she could do to help him. The girl then asked our protagonist if she wasn't right. And indeed, our protagonist wasn't wrong about her nobility, let alone her skills as a mage. What's truly surprising is that she's someone who thinks of others so easily. Valtis decided to ask what had happened for her to end up in a situation like that. The woman doesn't have any concrete evidence about the culprit yet, but she has a very strong intuition about it. It was all planned by her brother, who has always hated her, and that wretched man's name is Durso.